Thank you. Jan Langbein is a community activist. Many of you graduates have done internships with her at Genesis or at Austin Street Shelter or one of the other 501c3s that she encourages the work in. She's known as being a champion of women. For more than 28 years, she's worked tirelessly to end violence against women. She currently serves as CEO of Genesis Women's Shelter and Support here in Dallas. She is recognized nationally as an expert on the epidemic of domestic violence, its societal dynamics, and human impact. A sought-after keynote speaker, she conducts training programs and workshops across the country and around the world. She provides expert testimony in court cases and trains law enforcement as well as prosecutorial professionals. Partnering with the Dallas Police Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigation, she co-founded the annual International Conference on Crimes Against Women held here in Dallas to provide a venue for collaboration among law enforcement officials, victim advocates, prosecutors, and forensic health professionals. Under Jan's leadership, Genesis has grown from a 7-room emergency shelter to a full-service response for domestic violence survivors, providing a complete continuum of care. Gail and I have been blessed in that she has served on Jan's board for a number of years, and we know firsthand the incredible work that she does. In 2008, she was appointed by President George W. Bush to serve as Senior Policy Advisor to the U.S. Department of Justice's Office on Violence Against Women. And in this leadership role, she was Chief Strategist, guiding and evaluating programs, processes, and operating standards. She was directly involved in the implementation of the Violence Against Women Act. Jan has received numerous local and national awards. She holds a Bachelor of Arts degree from Texas Tech University. However, she's a great example of those who've been adopted as alumni of SMU. As a matter of fact, her daughter, Sarah, earned a Bachelor of Music degree in voice performance here in 2002, and we have welcomed Jan to be a speaker at TEDx SMU Women in 2016. She received the George W. Bush Institute Trailblazer Citation Award from Mrs. Laura Bush this past year, and as a part of that institute's annual forum on leadership. So now it's my distinct privilege to introduce my colleague and friend, a real activist, Jan Langbein.
Oh my gosh, thank you, Dr. Turner, thank you, Dr. Rankin, and thank you, graduates of 2019, for this incredible honor to get to stand here and participate in your baccalaureate service this evening. It is just amazing as I look around this room and I see incredible men and women who are women of leadership and achievement, but I feel so strongly that if we are going to lead and achieve, that we must also have the opportunity and the obligation to remove roadblocks that keep other people from leading and achieving. Roadblocks like hunger, like poverty, like homelessness, like hopelessness, and certainly like domestic violence. About 10 years ago, there was a movie called The Emperor's Club. It was starring Kevin Kline. He portrayed a professor at a boys' school. He taught classic literature. One of his classes, he talked about a king from the Elamite kingdom, about 1500 BC. His name was Shotruk-Harhunta. And in this classroom, he would begin his class every year with a quote by this king, and who went on and on about the lands he had conquered and the wealth he had amassed and the slaves he had captured, but none of which made a difference. And in this movie, Mr. Hunter, the professor, asked the class, why is it, if this guy was so great, basically, if he was so good and so accomplished, why is it we have never even heard of him? And then the quote he said at the end of that class, he said, "Great ambition and great conquest without great contribution is insignificant." That's what I want to talk to you all about for the next few minutes. I want to talk about your significance. Look at you. You're the graduating class, the 2019 graduating class of Southern Methodist University. You came from, right? You came from different states. You came from different countries. You came from different cultures, and you came in as freshmen, and you are about to leave this university as world changers. You're our first class, graduating class of Generation Z. I don't know what they do next, but Generation Z is what you all are. And studies tell us a lot about you. Studies tell us that you are loyal and compassionate, that you are thoughtful and open-minded and determined and responsible. They say you have higher rates of graduation and lower rates of teen pregnancy and less rates of substance abuse, that you are more educated, that you are more risk-averse. And while this past 4 years, while you were studying here, I'm assuming a lot of studying here, but also partying and also making friends, a lot of things were going on out in the rest of the world. There were royal weddings, there were royal births. Donald J. Trump was elected the 45th President of the United States. Mother Teresa was canonized by Pope Francis. Hurricane Harvey submerged the city of Houston, Texas. Hurricane Maria killed over 1,000 American citizens in Puerto Rico. We learned words like Bitcoin and fidget spinners and Brexit, and we all huddled around a TV and watched magic battles to claim the Iron Throne of the Seven Kingdoms. But on October the 15th, a woman named Alyssa Milano hit send on a post that launched a movement. A post that was actually heard around the world. She was building on the work of a community activist, a social organizer, who a decade before had used the words, "Me Too." Alyssa Milano put a hashtag in front of that, hit send, not having any idea of the avalanche of posts and conversations and memories that this would generate. By the end of that day, that hashtag had been used more than 200,000 times. Within 24 hours, there were over 12 million posts from people using that hashtag, men and women, who were basically saying hashtag me too. Hashtag I also have been touched. I also have been hit, I've been hurt. I also have been embarrassed. I have also been told in a million ways that I am not good enough. We have heard voices since that post, from casting couches in Hollywood to C-suites in corporate America, to trading floors of Wall Street, from the White House to back rooms of restaurants, to factories and small businesses all across this country. Since that post, I think our country has received a graduate-level course on sexual harassment and sexual assault. During the time that you were here studying and partying and making friends, a jury with zero tolerance also convicted Bill Cosby, who formerly known as America's Dad. But American fathers do not perpetrate premeditated, drug-facilitated sexual assault. Since you walked across through the rotunda when you first processed in, over 2,000 mass shootings in our country. Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida. Nightclub in Florida, a rooftop in Las Vegas, a backyard in Plano, Texas, the First Baptist Church of Sutherland Springs, Texas, police officers in downtown Dallas. So the point of all of this is, while these amazing things were going on all around us, you Gen Xers are now faced with finding solutions to very vast, very serious problems. Reversing global warming, cleaning the plastic out of our oceans, the economy, healthcare, immigration, and school shootings. Your life will be, well, pretty much like SMU, your time here at SMU. You are on this beautiful, incredibly privileged campus, but just not very far from here, you are surrounded by some of our city's greatest needs. It's the same thing as our city. Dallas is an amazing city. It's a great city, but it's not just the bright and the beautiful and the fancy that makes it what it is. It is also the dichotomy of the light and the dark in our city, and what we do to make it, to fix it, that makes it great. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot have a great bridge in our city if there are homeless men and women and children living beneath it. We cannot have a state-of-the-art arts district. If anywhere in our community women and girls are being trafficked into the degradation of human trafficking into the adult entertainment industry, we can never have safe streets if we do not have safe homes. I want to tell you a story about a man. His name is Charles Plum. He was a U.S. Navy fighter pilot during the Vietnam War, and after 75 combat missions, his plane was destroyed by a surface-to-air missile. He ejected, he parachuted, and landed in the enemy hands. He was captured and spent over 6 years in a Vietnamese prison. He survived and actually now goes around the country, around the world, lecturing on that experience. So one day, he and his wife, he was about to make a presentation, and they were at dinner in a restaurant, and a man comes up to him, and he shakes his hand, and he said, "Oh my gosh, you're Charles Plum." And Plum said, "Yes." And he said, "You flew off the USS Kitty Hawk and were shot down on September the 6th, 1967. He said, "That's right, but how did you know?" And with tears in this man's eyes coming down his face, he said, "I know because I was the one who packed your parachute. I'm the one who packed your parachute." Charles Plum says he couldn't even sleep that night thinking about this man who every day held his fate in his hands. He never said hello. He never said thank you. He never even knew who this man was who worked in the lowest level of the ship, folding and weaving that silk to make sure that Charles Plum was safe. So I'm going to ask you all tonight, you all in this room, kiddos and parents, I'm going to ask you, who packed your parachute? Who made it possible for you to get through, give you what you needed to get through these last 4 years? Certainly, I hope it was your parents. Was it a teacher? Was it an advisor? Was it a roommate? Was it a friend? Tonight, I also want to ask you not just who packed your parachute, but whose parachutes will you pack? How are you going to pay it forward, or better yet, pack it forward? I hope this class will be determined never to turn a blind eye, knowing that simple solutions and easy rhetoric will never solve the problems that your generation faces. There are thousands and thousands of parachutes, ladies and gentlemen, that need packing for people that will never say thank you, who will never know your name. But that's not why we do it. We do it because we recognize a need and we want to be part of the solution. We do it because it's the right thing to do, because that's what makes us significant. My wish for you is that you will be part of something greater than yourselves, that this class will be willing to stand up and march on and sit in, whatever it takes to guarantee that SMU's ideal of excellence, this opportunity to be a world changer, is not lost or diminished or tarnished or given away. My wish for you tonight is that you will find your field of fascination, the fire in your belly, that will help combine your passion and your purpose. There's a man named Simon Sinek. He's a London-born author and motivational speaker and visionary. In 2009, he presented a TED Talk, which is one of the most viewed TED Talks, and I hope that you will watch it. But I want to share, if you haven't seen it, I want to share a few of the key points of that TED Talk. They were certainly aha moments, both professionally and personally to me. Sinek challenges us to understand the difference between success and failure. He asked the question in this TED Talk, why is Apple more successful than their competitors? Why was Dr. Martin Luther King the leader of the civil rights? Why him? He certainly wasn't the only man who suffered in pre-civil rights America. He certainly was not the only great orator. Sinek says that these inspiring organizations, these inspiring leaders, think and act and communicate differently than the rest of us, than anyone else. And he draws this circle that he calls the golden circle. And it's almost like a bullseye, a target. And on the outside, it says what? The question is, what do you do? What do you do? And then comes, how do you do it? And in the very middle, it says why. Why do you do what you do? And he's not looking for, I want a great job. I do what I do because I want to earn a lot of money. I want to support my family. He is saying, what is your cause? What's the point of you? What's your belief? Why do you do this? Why do you get out of bed in the morning? And what difference will it make to other people that you do get out of bed in the morning? He said most people communicate from the outside in, whereas these amazing, inspired leaders communicate from the inside out. So Apple did certainly not start with, hey, we make computers. they're easy to use. Hey, do you want to buy one? They start with why. They start with the belief that you can have information at your fingertips 24 hours a day, that all technology, all connectivity is available to you, wirelessly, on your wrist, on your phone, however you want that to happen. Only then do they move out from the why to the how and the what. That they are user-friendly, there's 24-hour tech support, they're very well made. We don't just buy their laptops, we buy anything that Apple sells us. We buy their watch, we buy their phones, we buy their laptops, and we do it because we want to believe what they believe. We want to believe that we can be in touch with the entire world anytime we want. So we were thinking about that king of the Elamites, 1500 BC, but Sinek gives us an example of something that's more today, more modern. He said in the early 20th century, the pursuit of man-powered flight was like what we would call our dot-com age today. Everyone knows the names of the Wright brothers, Wilbur and Orville Wright. But few people, he says, recognizes the name Samuel Pierpont Langley. Samuel Pierpont Langley decided that he had the recipe for success. He was going to have the first man-powered flight in America, in the world. And man, did he have all the resources. The Department of War gave him $50,000 to figure out this flying machine. Money was no problem. He worked, he had a seat at Harvard. He worked at the Smithsonian. He was able to hire the best minds that were available at that time. The New York Times wrote about him. Everyone was rooting for him. They followed him around. So why have we never heard of him? Why don't we know who he is? Because at the same time, about 100 miles away in Dayton, Ohio, were the Wright brothers. Now, let me tell you, they had none of this recipe that Pierpont Langley had. They had no money. You know how they paid for their airplane? They did it off the proceeds they made from their bicycle shop. They had no one on their team had a college degree. No one followed them around. But the difference was they were driven by a cause, by a belief. Their why was that they believed so passionately that they could figure out this flying machine and it would change the course of the world. Langley worked for a different reason. He wanted to be rich, he wanted to be famous, he was in pursuit of the result, and his team worked for a paycheck. But on December the 17th in 1903, the Wright brothers took flight and no one was there and no one saw them. But I guarantee they changed the course of the world. And guess what Langley did that day? Guess what this guy did? He quit. He just put his tools down and he quit. Now, he could have said, wow, that's amazing. By the way, I have $50,000 and I'm going to improve on the technology and I'm going to make it better. But he didn't. He quit because he didn't start with his why. So each of you, as you go out from this campus, you're going to need to know what you're doing for sure. But if you really, really, really want to be successful, you'll figure out why it is you want to do that. Dr. Martin Luther King did not say, I have a plan for my life. Dr. Martin Luther King said, I have a dream for my life. Now, some of you may be sitting out here tonight thinking, wow, that all sounds just really great, but I have no idea what the fire in my belly is. I have no idea what my why is, and that's okay. It was the same for me. I went to my baccalaureate service. I graduated. I became a professional. I got married. I was a wife, a mother, a community volunteer in my church, in my school, until the age of 40. So God does funny things, okay? Sometimes you just have to really wait a while to figure this out. And when I was 40, I was a member of the Junior League of Dallas, and I don't know if you know what Junior League is, but it's an association of women worldwide that volunteer to make this world a better place in which to live. So I have this theory about Junior League, that there are major leaguers and there are minor leaguers, and I was definitely in the minor leagues. I always sat at the back of the meetings. I went to my minimum number of meetings, and I sat there and made my grocery list, while major leaguers up here in the front told about their Junior League training and how it could change the course of the world, and I just thought, you know, I don't think that applies to me. I sat where you sat, and I thought that just could not apply to me. But then it was time to sign up for the next year's volunteer shift. And I'd gone through the brochure and I looked for the easy way out. Ladies and gentlemen, you want to make God laugh? Look for the easy way out of life. It just isn't there. But I found what I thought would be pretty easy to do, and I was in a hurry to go sign up before my girlfriends filled up that placement. But I was driving down Lover's Lane, and I realized that I had broken one of my junior league acrylic fingernails, and I thought, well, you know, I want to do good in the community, but I think my nails ought to look nice, right? So I'm sitting in this salon, and I'm waiting for my turn, and a magazine sort of just slides in my lap. It just slides in my lap, and on the cover of this magazine, there was a blurb that said every 9 seconds in this country, a woman is assaulted. It said 1 out of every 3 women you pass in the United States will know domestic violence on an ongoing basis. It's told how domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women in the United States, how more women will present to the emergency rooms of our area hospitals as a direct result of family violence than all of women who go to the ER as a result of rapes and car wrecks and muggings combined. And I thought, there is no way. I don't believe that. Not anybody who looks like me or lives where I live or went to school where I went to school, that just cannot be possible. I went on to read this article about a professional man and woman. I think she was a lawyer and he a dentist or vice versa. And he beat her because dinner was late. And I was offended. I was offended. I did get my nails done, but then by the time I got to the Junior League headquarters, I opened the book to violence intervention and put my finger down on Genesis. I had never even heard of Genesis, but you know what? That's what it said, and then that's where I went. And I got there, and I thought somehow these women, these battered women, would look differently than I did. And what I found was they look like you ladies, and they look like me. I found that battered women are tall and short and fat and thin and black and white and Hispanic. The only common thread I could find among all residents of Genesis is that they were in a relationship with an abusive partner. I found that their children looked like my children and like my grandchildren. I also found there at the steps of Genesis Women's Shelter that I had been given an incredible opportunity, and that opportunity was to make a difference. I was hired 3 years later as the CEO, and I'm sure there are people still scratching their heads wondering why in the world would they hire the Tuesday morning volunteer, but for 28 years as CEO, I have been working to raise the role and status of women, working to end the leading cause of injury to women in the United States, this domestic violence, this monster that feeds in the dark behind closed doors. I want to share a book with you. It was written by a man named Bill Shore. Bill Shore is the founder and CEO of a nonprofit organization in Washington, D.C. called Share Our Strength. Share Our Strength is working worldwide to end childhood hunger. He wrote a book called The Cathedral from Within, and he says in there, this book is a reminder of what really counts in our lives and in our communities are the enduring values of giving back and helping others. What really counts in this life are the values of giving back and helping others. He notes in his book that every single one of us have a strength to share, a talent, a gift. We may not even recognize it to ourselves. Maybe we take it for granted, but it's certainly something that can help someone else, make a difference in someone else's life. The main part of this book, however, The Cathedral from Within, is talking about the second largest Gothic cathedral in the world. It's the Cathedral of Milan. It actually took 500 years to build, from 1386 to 1887. But here's the interesting thing, interesting to me, that the vast majority of those people who worked on this cathedral did so knowing that they would never live to see the finished achievement. It did not diminish their workmanship or their craftsmanship. In fact, evidence suggests quite the opposite. They actually enhanced it. Cathedral builders combined imagination and invention and faith to build something that was great, something that was lasting, and something that was greater than themselves. The Cathedral of Milan could not have been built without people believing so passionately, so deeply, so truly that their beliefs became contagious to others. Cathedral builders have a unique understanding of the human spirit that enables them to do what they can with what they have. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot stop cathedral building, or worse, begin to dismantle those cathedrals that were built before us. Certainly, I wish for you, as you go forth from here, I wish for you success. I wish for you love. I wish for you a meaningful life. But at the end of the day, when it's all over and someone asks you, what was your why? What difference did you make? What did you do? Like stonemasons of earlier time, will you merely answer, I cut stones? Or will you be among those who can proudly and gratefully say, I built cathedrals in this life. My prayer for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is that God, the God of your faith, will bless you and keep you, that he will hold you in his hands, and that you may find peace in this world. Congratulations, Southern Methodist University graduates of 2019. Congratulations.